All right, let's get started. We've been talking way too much and we're like, save it for the pod. So we're just going to start recording and here we go. We are back for another episode of F1 Casuals. I know we said we were going to come back in 2 weeks after the Australian GP, but we were just too hyped, too pumped. We needed to bring you another one. We've got a lot to cover, believe it or not. But first off, I mean, I broke it at the end of the last episode because we found out after we recorded, but we didn't talk about it as a group. Fernando gets his 100th podium. They give him back third place. Craziness. But now we get to sing Fernando in a happy jingle.
They heard those drums are rolling, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
They did. And Mike, you were saying before we recorded that it was actually Mercedes that pushed this?
Yeah, the articles that I've come across, it wasn't necessarily Aston Martin that filed a protest with the FIA to question or challenge the penalty. Sorry, it was a competitor's team. And reason being is that without diving too much into it and me making mistakes, really though, the gist of it is that this has occurred in previous situations in Formula One where a time penalty was incurred in the pit box where the team couldn't touch the car and the jackman had made contact. However, if he doesn't raise the car from the rear, I guess they're saying that would they could kind of read between the lines and they wouldn't incur a penalty for that. So It was something that Mercedes highlighted to the FIA, and subsequently Alonso gets his 100th podium.
Some rare good karma put into the universe by Toto Wolff. You gotta love it when that happens.
Yeah, that's nice to see from him because I was watching that second episode of Drive to Survive season 5 where he's almost paranoid, accusing all the other team principals of trying to kill the drivers. Yeah, craziness. But I also read that apparently a penalty can only be enforced within 25 minutes of the race end. And this was 35 minutes after.
This was after the champagne, as we said last week.
It's after Mike said, you can't recork a champagne bottle. So, yeah, I mean, FIA, they usually, and we'll get to this later in the episode, make some questionable decisions, but they made the right call there, and it's great to see Fernando on that podium back-to-back. Very nice.
It is a bit of a shame, though, Mark, how, as we touched on, or you touched on, I guess, when you recapped, guy got to celebrate, then has it taken away, then it gets back. It's just a little bit of an early signal of the clownery that we're probably going to see from the FIA, trying to enforce all the new rules. We're still in season 2 of, brand new liveries, new rules, so a lot of kinks to be worked out, but for them to make our poor boy Fernando suffer like that when he's, staring down a bit of history for himself, I'm a little pissed off.
How dare they?
The audacity.
The audacity. All right, before we move on in today's episode, quick message from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Boxing Rock. Greg, I know Boxing Rock is not present in Portland, but I mean, you've got some amazing breweries over there. But this isn't about them. It's about Boxing Rock, local Halifax. They're Shelburne, Nova Scotia, but big presence in Halifax where we're recording right now. They got a bunch of cool IPAs. Right here is a Intergalactic American Pale Ale, one of my favorites.
I got the Wild Axe Pilsner.
There you go. They've got the Vickers Cross, which is the infamous double IPA. Yeah. If you're feeling dangerous. But we're happy that they're on board. They also sponsor B&B Media Studio. So good friends of the pod, as they say. And I know I'm rocking Gato and beer right now, but that's just the Breakfast of Champions.
Cheers to you.
Cheers boys. It's 9:30 out here in Portland, but definitely familiar with a little bit of Boxing Rock myself from my time in my home province, and no stranger to getting hit with the Vickers Cross.
Oh, you got that right.
Yeah, we'll have to hit you up with a case out there, Greg.
I love what I'm hearing.
We'll do it.
Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Well, let's make it happen then.
You can get next week's order, Greg. We're directing it right to you. FedEx,
love
Canada Post, whatever works best. All right, let's move on. And I forgot to say this last week, but the artwork, the new F1 Casuals artwork, we've got the top 4 teams, the liveries on the bottom there. And each episode after GP, it's updated sort of with, if you've noticed on the Aston Martin, or if you noticed on the Saudi Arabia GP episode, now the Mercedes and Aston Martin are tied. I don't know if we're going to keep doing this because Red Bull is going to be off the page soon. we'll see what happens there. But
yeah, they'll have a page of their own, I guess.
Yeah, we'll have to get secondary artwork just for Red Bull. Another little fun thing with back to Fernando, of course, because we always go back to Aston Martin. George and the Mercedes team had a little bit of fun because they gave George the winner's trophy for P3, and everyone had left before they changed the ruling back. So they, as you know, Mike, Mercedes headquarters is just down the road from Aston Martin.
Yep, not far
at all. And they specially deliver the trophy to Aston Martin and Fernando. I got to say, and maybe I'm just paying more attention to it this year, but the F1 teams and the drivers are some of the best follows on social media.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you would know. You are a man of the content, so.
I've just been going ham all week. I've been watching Fernando Alonso's sizzle reels all week. Good times.
The internet is definitely loving Alonso's newfound form.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Aston Martin is the fun team to watch right now. All right, so some cool news here. Netflix has announced a 6-part miniseries, so a drama, not a documentary, on the life of another incredible F1 driver that we love here at the Casuals, Ayrton Senna, who was gone too soon. Very tragic death in 1994. Whole thing there that's documented in his other movie called Senna, which is a fantastic documentary. Yeah. Highly recommend. And 3-time world champion. He's going to be played by Brazilian actor Gabriel Leone. I looked him up. He's not really in anything but Brazilian and South American productions. Okay. But so I'm also not sure if it's going to be in English or Spanish or Portuguese. I think English, because they're going to have to cast, Prost and Schumacher, which will be interesting to see who plays those characters. But it could be a little bit of everything, which is kind of nice. I think they do a lot more with modern shows. Is English isn't just the only language being spoken. Like you have equal parts, depending.
Yeah, and this will be a global viewership for this.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, F1, a worldwide sport, and Ayrton Senna revered across the world.
Worldwide name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so another cool note is his family's directly involved. So
excellent.
They may be trying to make money off his name, but at least it's going to be real authentic.
I'm happy to hear they have a Brazilian actor playing the lead.
Yeah. Very, very good stuff. So I'm wondering, what do you think they're going to cover? Or more importantly, what are you looking forward to the events covered in this series? Any things really stand out to you?
I don't know. Senna's been, his career and his life was extremely well documented. So if there's any new revelations, new footage, anything like that, I'll be very, very eager to see that. His previous documentaries are very intimate, and they paint a very, very accurate picture of his life, his passion for the sport, but also his passion for life. So I hope that resonates in the series. Very excited to see who they cast as his competitors.
Actually, that leads me right into what I was going to say next. Who do you think is going to play Alain Prost and, of course, Michael Schumacher?
Tough call. I don't even know where to speculate. I almost like it when it's sort of unknowns, like we saw in the Narcos series and whatnot, and Chapo and whatnot.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Pedro Pascal is massive now, but back when he was on Narcos, he wasn't
exactly. He was unknown, really. So.
I'm gonna go with Sacha Baron Cohen for Alain Prost.
Okay, yeah, he's a little tall. He's a little tall for Prost. I'm sorry, but
Ricky Bobby.
If you do not tell me you like grapes, I will be forced to break your arm.
Oh my, yeah, it's a grape. That's what I'm going to go with Schumacher. I don't know who played Ivan Drago.
Oh my God, Dolph Lundgren, is that
Dolph Lundgren?
That is exactly
Michael Schumacher.
Well done, Greg.
They can put the CGI where they de-age him, and there you go. Cast it. You're welcome, Netflix. No release date yet. I tried to find out. Netflix didn't announce anything, but expected to be probably mid to late 2024. So something to keep on the calendar.
It's in the works. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and something we've obviously kind of pumped before, but that Senna documentary that is on Netflix or was on Netflix, hopefully it's back on there, but just a phenomenal way of kind of chronicling the life of a megastar. Like, this guy was the sport for so long. I think, Mikey, you and I think he's probably the greatest of all time.
Yeah, for sure for me. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, getting back into Formula One after a few years, kind of a little bit more pulled back from the sport, was watching that documentary and that opening scene where they just document his lap that he put in Monaco in the wets. Like, that gives you a real glimpse. And I loved how they just focused on that lap and the driving. It was an incredible scene. One of the first like helmet cam things that kind of rose to prominence. And yeah, for me, that really got me excited for that forthcoming Formula One season that year. So that's why I'm back with the casuals, Ayrton Senna.
Yeah, if you like, for our listeners and our viewers, if you have any interest in motorsport in general and want to know what raw talent looks like in on a track where we're talking millimeters difference between glory and death, basically, even more so in the era of Senna and Prost in that time. Watch that lap of him in, I believe it's quali lap, and it's one of the greatest laps documented of all time in the history of Formula One by one of the greatest drivers to ever get behind the wheel. And when you see him coming in at Rascas, one-handed, shifting and whatnot with no power steering.
And that engine noise.
Right? Yeah. He's a god amongst men, certainly.
Always right on the edge. Yeah, so that'll be a great little thing. And yeah, like Mike said, if you want to just see some amazing racing highlights, check out Senna on YouTube. When he won the Brazilian GP, just incredible. The emotions. I think he got so excited that he was gripping the wheel and he like seized up.
That's not excitement. That's pure exhaustion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And that's the footage when he can barely lift the trophy above his head. But as documented in his documentary, he did it for his country, his family, and his love of the sport. So
yeah. And that's definitely one of the things I'll be looking forward to in the series, and just like the racing in general.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be shot incredibly. It's Netflix after all. Okay, so we're going to get into our main topic today, and it concerns Red Bull, the team that is running away with this championship. It's really theirs to lose. We don't have to go over that. We all know that. But what I want to talk about today is more about within that team, the Checo-Max rivalry, and whether or not, one, Checo can win the Drivers' Championship. And I know this is more of a hypothetical thing. Like, if Max doesn't have any reliability issues moving forward, he's not going to lose. We get that. But let's say some things have happened, maybe another engine failure, whatever, Checo drives out of his mind, and we're moving in more into the season, and that race is still close. Can Checo pull away and take it? Or more importantly, would Red Bull, or really the Verstappens, let him win? Not let him, but, allow that situation to go down.
Hell no.
It's a simple hell no from Greg.
I guess it covers all his bases there. Yeah, I hear you, Greg. Many, many thoughts come across. First and foremost would be Lewis saying that, when they battled a couple years ago, they were heavy. If Max can't pass you, he'll crash you, take you out. A little bit of Senna in the blood there, maybe. From days gone past. But if anything, first and foremost, I think it creates excitement within Formula One. It creates excitement within the team. And what's better than a one-horse race? Well, it's two-horse race. So if we have the two fastest cars with arguably the two fastest drivers, duking it out for the Drivers' Championship, then I'm all for it, because we saw that in 2016 with Nico Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton. It came down to the last race, and sure enough, Nico secured his one and only Drivers' Championship and subsequently retired immediately after. If Checo were to pull that off, Felicidad, congratulations. But Max is a force of his own, and I don't think Checo can compete with Max's race pace, let alone his quality pace. Yeah. And if, you can't see Max having reliability issues all season long. No. So it's at some point, Max, if he doesn't run away with it, Red Bull's obviously going to favor Max, because he's their poster boy, double world champion. And, there's exactly. And there's already talk about like Max potentially breaking the Drivers' Championship record before Lewis does. So
Yeah,
there's
I
a
mean-
lot to it there, and there's Red Bull has a lot to lose by not allowing Max to continue. So
Red Bull could easily win 6 championships, 6 more in a row right now. Yeah, I don't see it happening. I mean, we saw Yost, not really. I mean, that might have been taken out of context, but not exactly congratulating Checo on his victory in Saudi Arabia. And then you have, Max taking the fastest lap on the last lap, even though Red Bull said the team orders keep your current delta, let Checo win, basically. And he ignored that, or not, let Checo have the fastest lap, and he ignored that and actually puts Max 1 point ahead in the Drivers' Championship. And then you can look back to the end of last season in Brazil, when arguably way worse than this situation, Max, I think, had already won the championship at that point, big time. I mean,
he
destroyed it. But Checo was in second in the championship with Charles close behind, and Max was asked when he was in P1 to let Checo move forward out of P2 into P1 himself, so he could take those more points and safely secure that second place in the championship. And Max simply just ignored those team orders. And I think the biggest thing of all is that there's no consequences for Max when he does that. No. So, I mean, that's just the writing's on the wall there.
Yeah. There is a number 1 and number 2 driver situation at Red Bull.
Yeah, no doubt.
Regardless of what Christian Horner conveys in the media.
Shades of Multi 21, boys.
Oh, yeah. Well, I actually kind of took note of that because it was the 10-year anniversary of the Multi 21 the other day, I believe Friday. This is out now Monday, so a few days ago. And that was when Vettel, who, if you're just becoming an F1 fan, you only know Sebastian Vettel as Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. I'm here to take care and clean up after the race is finished, like all the brownie points in the world. But he used to be just as, if not more, ruthless than Max.
At a very young age as well. Multi 21, Singapore, Weber. It was, sorry, yeah. Weber, very, very unhappy man, but Vettel staking his claim within that team and saying, look, I'm here to win. I'm here to be a number 1 driver. And if that means I have to go through my teammate to do so, then I'm fully committed.
Yeah, I mean, that was on his way to his 4th championship in a row. So, yeah, he can't argue with that.
No, and that clip you posted on our Reels, Mark, was fantastic too. You just see that icy stare. He's completely dialed on winning that race. He doesn't give a shit.
No, he certainly doesn't. Interesting quote from Damon Hill from an article that was a German publication that I think grabbed it off a podcast that Damon was on. He was same thing, talking about, what could happen between Checo and Max and that rivalry. And he assured the interviewer that Checo is safe within that team. And he has someone by the name of Julian Jacob who's like taking care of him. I don't know. It was kind of cryptic. I tried to look up Julian Jacob. I couldn't find anything on F1. I asked ChatGPT, who the hell is Julian Jacob? And they were like, there is no one in existence by that name. I don't know if it's a code name. I don't know if there was a translation error because it was a German news website. But if you know out there, listeners, who Julian Jacob is, reach out. Let us know. All right, on to our next topic. We are revisiting McLaren. And Mike, you called this. We talked about this last week. If changes don't happen on the track, changes will be made within the team. Technical director James Key has been relieved of his duties.
Mike Stradamus strikes again.
Well, yeah, thank you. But we saw this in the past with McLaren. They will not hesitate to make changes. And again, a lot of media pressure, a lot of focus on McLaren and their poor results over the first 2 races. So, like we saw in the past with Eric Boulier resigning, so has James Key. McLaren looks like they're going to fill that singular position with three people now, one of which is Ferrari's former head of vehicle concept, David Sanchez. And they've also pipped Peter, Prodromou?
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Prodromou.
Yeah, from Red Bull. So again, McLaren not wasting time and bringing in some highly respected names from the technical fields from competitive teams. So we'll see if that translates to track time.
Yeah, and that third is Giuseppe Pesci. He's been promoted to director of aerodynamics. And then there's Piers Tin, who's been moved into an expanded role of chief operating officer for the team. Never heard of those people before, but that's the shakeup that we thought was going to come. It did. Zach Brown, still CEO, still with the team, but Greg, I mean,
he's got to get this ship righted and real quick because, I think he is certainly going to be the next domino to fall if they cannot fix their season.
Yeah, and we'll see. Because we talked about it. They finished 15th and 17th in the Saudi GP, but I mean, Piastri qualified for Q3. Like he started P8, so there's at least a little performance in that car. Obviously, qualifying pace, no race pace, but hopefully he'll be able to translate that. I mean, we're not necessarily McLaren fans, but we're not against McLaren. We don't hate any teams really, but it'd be nice to see, a legacy team like McLaren be there again. And then if you got like a 5-team race at the top, like that would just be
that's what we're really pushing for is a much more competitive field. And you get comfortable with these teams being up in the top, so it's kind of a shock when they drop down. But maybe that's making room for Alpine and maybe Williams. Shout out to Williams. And we'll see what happens. But the focus is very, very much on, like you alluded to, Mark, their race pace as opposed to quality pace. It's not translating on track over the 52 to 70 laps that we often see in races. So a big, high pressure weekend coming up for McLaren in Australia.
Yeah, an extra focus there too with Piastri obviously being from Melbourne, his hometown race. So, if you're going to make a turnaround, what better opportunity to do so than a home race for your new driver?
Love to see it. Hopefully they can put on a show. I didn't even realize he was Australian until I saw an article today saying he's looking forward to his home race. So moving on, this was news that broke last week. We didn't really cover it in the last episode, but bikes have been banned. E-bikes, bikes, bicycles, e-scooters, everything they've been banned from the track during the team walks. I don't know if you've seen these happen typically Thursday night before free practice 1, and teams will just walk the track. Most will, but a lot of the younger racers, they'll jump on a bike and do it. I feel like walking, it's better if you want to kind of get a feel for what the track's going to be like, but they've been banned. Charles Leclerc says he's never going to do a track walk again. What a shame. I think it's kind of dumb. I guess the reason given is that overcrowding during the weekend when there's F2 and F3 races going on. I don't really see, fair. I mean, I guess it's fair, but it's like, is that where we're worried about safety? Not the 360 kilometer per hour cars? I don't know.
I mean, Alonso broken jaw on an e-bike, Lance Stroll broken wrist.
I guess so.
You have to think the Lance Stroll injury might have read into this a little bit.
True. Surely he was like mountain biking or something.
Yeah, I mean, not that these happened on the track or whatnot,
no.
But kind of funny time.
The lawyers probably got involved and said, well, it could happen on the track.
Insurance premiums are going up.
Yeah, you're right.
If any of my Portland Winterhawks staff and coworkers are listening to this, I'm sure they are. I hope they are. They'll probably get a kick out of this because the electric scooter is actually a common mode of transport for me to get to the rink on a daily basis. So I'm a little bit pissed off because those things are reliable and exciting machines, and they deserve their spotlight as well. So, yeah, I'm a little upset with this decision.
Love e-scooters. We've got them here in Halifax. You just rent them. They're all over downtown. I'm probably going to buy one this summer because I spent the equivalent last year renting them. Yeah, they're great. I'm upset. Dumb ban. They're safe. They're F1 drivers. I think they can drive an e-scooter. But in honor, I suppose you could say, in light of this rule, which was put in by the FOM, the Formula One management, with the assistance and approval of FIA. But FIA was still involved. So we're going to go through the top 5 dumbest rules that the FIA has ever instituted. Some for longer periods of time, some for one race. Okay, number 5, elimination qualifying. So I didn't even know, this was back in 2016, so not that long ago, but the elimination style qualifying system was introduced at the start of that season. It only lasted 2 races. Basically what happened, 7 drivers got knocked out of qualifying every 90 seconds in the first 2 sessions, with 8 then taking part in Q3. And it kind of sounds cool because that sounds frantic and like stressful, but it'd be fun to watch, but also way too complicated, and I'm sure the drivers hated it. and it's probably why it only lasted 2 races.
Frantic and stressful doesn't even come close to describing the chaos that happened on track during these sessions, during these 2 races. Essentially, if you thought it was bad at like Imola, for example, for traffic and whatnot, and everybody backing up, this was the worst thing because everybody was trying to get that last lap in before the time dropped. And what ended up happening, if I do remember correctly, is that some like 5 or 7 cars didn't even get a lap in.
Yeah.
Like they didn't register a time, so they were eliminated without even recording a time. A little fun for the viewers, but there's no longevity to that model.
And I think there's just so much opportunity, like you say, chaos, tire temperature is an issue. And, teams that are non-competitive can potentially ruin another team's weekend by, doing something stupid during a 90-second window.
Yeah, I mean, you still see shenanigans from time to time in the current format. So, yeah, of course that was going to happen. Dumb rule. That was number 5. Number 4, team radio ban. Now, there have been different bans. Brutal over the years. This wasn't a rule, but a couple years ago, we were able to hear what the team principals were saying to, at that point, it was Michael
Massey.
Michael Massey, who is the FIA director. And you'd hear that back and forth. And it was hilarious for us, the fans. But at times, there was a lot of things that happened that it ended up just not looking good for everyone involved. So they got rid of that after that 1 year. But this one was even more ridiculous. The FIA banned drivers from asking their team if anything was wrong with the car or solutions if there was something wrong. And you see now, like, that happens all the time. Like, we're telling you what you need to do. And that was banned at one point. So what's going on there?
Yeah, it was tough. I think the thought behind it was that the drivers should be autonomous, essentially, from the team and be able to solve these issues on the steering wheel on their own without any direction or support from the team. And it just resulted in a lot of unnecessary DNFs.
Yeah. This was a wacky one that, Mike, you probably remember. It was back in 2014. For some reason, and no explanation given to this day, the final race, they decided double points were going to be awarded. And what? Yeah, this was when Lewis and Nico were battling. Nico won in 2016, but they were still close for those few of the years that Lewis won. And it kind of changed the scenario a bit. I mean, Lewis, he still pretty much had the championship locked up. But with those double points being awarded on the final racing day, it gave Nico a bit of a window. Lewis ended up winning, of course, but no explanation, just a really dumb rule for no reason. Not even a rule, just like I don't know what you'd call it.
Yeah, the final race in Abu Dhabi that year was extremely exciting, and I think like Lewis had some qualifying issues or something like that, and it was one of those scenarios where like, if Nico wins, Lewis has to finish at least P5. If Nico finishes P2, Lewis this, that, with the way the points break down. And I mean, it was exciting, but I didn't think it was an accurate representation of the entire season leading up to that. And what's any different? Why is the last race of the year so special compared to the previous 20, 21, whatever they were at that point? Not a fan. Glad it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I think you just compromise the integrity of not only the entire season, but the entire sport when you're adding on consequential rules or changes in the last race of the year. And obviously we saw that last season. But yeah, not a fan either.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. That's number 3. Number 2, this is a recent one. This is a ban on jewelry in the cockpit. And this one was mostly directed at Lewis, and we don't like that because Lewis is a fashion icon, if you haven't seen these walks in the paddock lately. But I don't know why they wanted to do that. There was no issues. I get, like, if you're playing another sport, on court, shouldn't be wearing a chain or something that could be ripped off your neck. But they have a helmet on. Like, I just didn't understand it.
These guys are going 330 kilometers down a straight line, 200 kilometers in a corner. I think the last thing that's going to compromise their health and safety is a nose ring. So
yeah, like sometimes you just have these governing bodies that want to flex their muscles, so to speak. And I think this was an example of that.
Yeah, at least they're not making everybody be clean shaven and show up in shirt and tie. But
Yeah.
So such is the sport, and I'm sure they used a health and safety justification for this, but completely arbitrary for me.
We don't like it.
Yeah, we don't like it. But the number one dumbest rule the FIA has ever implemented, and I didn't know about this. Well, I didn't know about a lot of them until the other night. But in 2005, no tire changes at all. Through qualifying and the race, you had to use the same set of tires.
Dangerous.
It's messed up, Mark.
That's crazy. Do you remember that? Did you watch F1 back then?
Yeah, but I don't think I paid as close attention as I do now, so that one escapes me. Don't even want to speculate as to why and how that would increase the entertainment value of the race.
Well, here's why. Apparently, they did give a reason, and it was Ferrari's dominance from 2000 to 2004 was due in part because they had Bridgestone tires.
Oh, that's right, because there was 2 tire manufacturers at that point.
Others were using Michelin,
that's right,
and Goodyear, I believe, and I didn't know it at a time like. It wasn't everyone on the same tires like we have now. But yeah, Ferrari had Bridgestone. They were superior, and then they tried to bring them back down to earth with the no tire change. It failed. It lasted 1 season, and that's the dumbest rule the FIA has ever implemented. All right, it's time for a new segment called Who Said That?
Who said it?
Who said it? We've got 3 quotes, or I have 3 quotes here that I'm going to read, and the two of you, Mike and Greg, you're going to try and guess who said that. And the listener, you can try and guess too. You might be able to get your guess in before we cut to the answers here. But let's start with number 1. Oh, geez, I got the answers here. Were you looking at it, Mike?
No, that's why I put my hand up here. I'm not cheating.
Number 1, and these are easy ones. I'll mix in from time to time. We'll get some serious ones, some funny ones, and some wacky ones. But number 1, we've got, the engine feels good, much slower than before. Amazing.
Got to be Alonso at McLaren. That's my guess, I guess.
My guess is that sounds like a Kimi Räikkönen quote.
Nice.
Ooh, okay. It is Fernando Alonso in the McLaren.
Okay, all right.
Good job. 1 point for Mike. We just decided there's a scoring system. Okay. Number 2, the most important victory is the one which has to arrive.
Oh, I've heard that before.
That is so profound and obscure.
It's got to be.
I'll give you. Yeah, it is profound, and it's a classic quote. So it's not a new person.
Yeah, that's
involved.
not like a current driver.
Yeah, not current at all.
It's got to be a Senna quote.
That sounds Senna. Yeah, I'm with you, Mikey.
Senna? I'll go with that. Yeah,
it is Enzo Ferrari.
Yeah. All right.
Went way back for that one. Yeah. So still 1-0, Mike. We got the tiebreaker here. The last one. No, Mikey. No, Mikey. That is so not right.
Even without the accent, that's we just touched on that in the last segment. But that's Toto Wolff, man.
We went motor racing.
And that was a quote that we would have never heard if they didn't have the back and forth radio between the team principal and technical director. But a memorable one, that's for sure. It's on mugs. You can order them. Etsy.com probably. All right, we're going to get to another round of sprint to the finish line here to end off this episode. News about Lando's mugging. If you remember this, when he was mugged at the Euro 2020, the details have finally been made public. And our poor boy, he was put in a headlock outside in the parking lot next to his McLaren by 2 guys that came up to him and asked, is this your car? And his 144,000-pound watch, I assume that's a Richard Mille.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Was taken off.
Sponsored, yep.
Yeah, sponsored. Taken off his wrist. Robbed. 2 suspects left Lando with scratches. How dare they? But that, I had forgotten about that mugging, and that's crazy that can just happen.
Traumatic event, for sure, especially after a great night at Wembley for England.
Yeah.
And it took him a while to kind of get past that. I mean, for obvious reasons, but it definitely affected him on track. And I know that he took some time for mental health and spoke to some professionals, and just very happy to see that he's been able to put that behind him. And continue on with his career. Hi, Oatmeal.
Yeah, we got the paddock pup here who's making an appearance. He's slightly off screen. You can kind of see his snout here. For those listening, sorry, we've got Oatmeal here, our paddock pup, who's made an appearance. I think he needs to go pee. So, yeah, give us like 5-10 there, buddy. Love you. Okay.
But also, Richard Mille, if you're listening, I'd like to replace my Fitbit. So you can send 3 144,000-pound watches to B&V Studios in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Thank you.
Yeah, we got a nice little spot for you right here to put up your latest releases as well.
You won't regret it. Send away. Would love that. Porsche, bad news. They're not joining the grid in 2023. I know there's a lot of talks. They were going to partner with McLaren or Red Bull. Those talks have collapsed. And a rumored deal with Volkswagen also didn't materialize. So dreams of Porsche and F1 are going to have to wait. They still are interested on the record, but yeah, nothing for now.
I'm big sad about that one, guys.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah. We were all talking about that.
Audi's still coming through, though.
Yeah, 2026 for Audi. Not sure if you saw this. Valtteri Bottas, emphasis on the TAS, posed nude for GP Racing Magazine, April's issue. If you're listening, sorry you're missing out, because on YouTube, a picture of that cover just popped up right here. And Bottas is looking good.
Stash and mullet and all, eh?
Yeah, Greg, we'll send you, we'll airdrop that big round rump right to you. McLaren Racing to enhance fan CRM, that's customer relationship management if you're not a marketing student, capabilities through their new multi-year Salesforce partnership. Now, this is becoming a meme that Zach Brown spent his entire offseason trying to get sponsors instead of car updates.
That's what his experience is in. He's a marketing and sales guy. He's not a car designer. So,
yep.
Yeah, that maybe tracks. Should have hired... made the infrastructure changes in personnel before worrying about selling advertising space. But hey, you got to pay the bills, though, right?
You got to pay the bills. Red Bull's last back-to-back 1-2, and I referenced this last week. I wasn't sure when that happened. It was back in 2009. Yeah, so a good while, 12 years ago. If you want to know the last back-to-back-to-back, I don't know. Give me another week. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Australia hasn't happened yet. Max Verstappen has a new brand called the Max 1. And Nike's not happy about it. They have raised opposition because of the Air Max 1. And I think that makes sense.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the decision there. However, this is something that if it was to come to fruition, we wouldn't see till Max was out of Formula One anyways, and him obviously having a Puma deal. It would have to go through their line if he was doing something independent. We saw that with Charles Vettel taking the mick out of him in the past and Drive to Survive. But yeah, I mean, I like the name Max 1, but I automatically assume Air Max. So
yeah. Nike's a legacy company, obviously, so they're probably going to win that suit. Great news for Fernando Alonso. He was a big hater of this. I think we all were. The last chicane at I forget the track's called, but the Spanish GP, it's been removed, folks.
Excellent. Barcelona,
yeah. That's correct. That's going to be a nice wide, straight into turn. So there could be some spicy action at that track finally. Because it's a bit of a bore.
Yeah, not much passing, and that chicane really compromises speed. Obviously, going into the final straight.
Yeah.
So yeah, that should be a good point for overtaking in the future.
Exactly. You're going to have full out coming back into that straight where the finish line is, and there's going to be way more passing there. I think that'll be fun to watch. Maybe I'll actually watch the Spanish GP this year. And finally, three-time Formula One champion Nelson Piquet in the news again, and not for a good reason again. If you guys remember, a couple years ago, I believe it was, he was quoted in an article saying some racist stuff about Lewis Hamilton. He's been fined £780,000 for the moral damages caused to Lewis. That's good to hear because, Piquet's a bit of a piece of shit.
Yeah, not a fan of him in general from the past, and there's no room for comments like that, not just in Formula One, but in our society.
Sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely not. All right, folks, that is it for this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be back, obviously, in 1 week for the Australian GP. Excited to watch that. Unfortunately, that's going to be on at 2 a.m. here in Halifax. I guess it'd be 10 p.m. start for you over there in Portland, Greg. So
thanks for that. I'm not a math guy, so that's huge.
yeah, there you go. Watchable, I suppose, but I don't think anyone's watching a GP at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. No, thanks. We'll probably do the rewatch. Yeah. We'll do the rewatch the next day. We're looking forward to that. The podium last year was Charles 1, Checo 2, George 3. That's a nice little podium I totally forgot about. So we obviously gave our predictions last week. If you want to see them, check out last week's episode. And before we get out of here, if you are listening on YouTube, press that like button. Smash it. Subscribe to our channel. Smash it as hard as you can.
Yeah, and don't forget to get the bell on, too.
Yeah, get that bell on so you never miss out on any content. We're not just putting out episodes, we're putting out shorts. You know, it's good content. I'm motivated, I'm hyped up. I'm putting out stuff every week, every day. I don't even care. So give us that like and follow. If you're listening on podcast platforms, give us that 5-star rating if you don't mind. Subscribe on whatever podcast platform you choose. And then maybe, if you got a second, write a review. You can make fun of us. I don't care. As long as it's 5 stars, you know?
Yeah, it all helps us grow and get more content out to you guys.
Absolutely. But that's it for today's episode. Thanks for joining me, Mike, Greg. Appreciate it. Until next time, it's lights out.
See you on the grid.